Rain hammered the jungle like bullets from the sky. Lightning flashed above the endless sea of black trees, while the military helicopter cut through the storm at low altitude. Inside the vibrating aircraft, 7 U.S. Army Rangers sat locked in silence, weapons ready, eyes sharp. Everyone knew this mission felt wrong. Too quiet, too rushed, too dangerous. Sergeant Elena Brooks sat near the open side door, calm despite the violent turbulence. Water sprayed through the cabin and soaked her uniform, but she didn't react. She kept cleaning the mud from her rifle scope with slow precision. 26 years old. Recon specialist. Expert tracker. Survival instructor. And the only female ranger attached to Task Force Ghost. Across from her, Corporal Danny Ruiz smirked nervously. You ever notice missions get worse every time command says, easy extraction? A few soldiers chuckled quietly. Elena didn't. Easy missions don't need rangers, she replied. Ruiz laughed. That's why you scare everybody. At the center of the cabin stood Staff Sergeant Cole Mercer, the team leader. Tall, hard-faced, respected, but feared more than liked. He looked over the squad one final time. Listen up, Mercer said loudly over the engine roar. Objective remains the same. CIA asset codename Sparrow is alive somewhere inside the jungle valley. We locate him, extract him, and disappear before sunrise. He paused. No unnecessary engagement. Then his eyes briefly moved toward Elena. Stay focused, stay together. She understood the hidden message. Mercer never trusted her. Not because she lacked skill, because she questioned bad decisions. And tonight already smelled like one. The pilot's voice crackled through the headset. Approaching drop zone, 90 seconds. The rear door opened wider. Cold wind exploded inside the helicopter. Below them stretched miles of hostile jungle near the border, a place controlled by the Red Viper's militia. The group was infamous for ambushes, executions, and making soldiers vanish forever inside the rainforest. Even satellites struggled to track movement there. The jungle swallowed everything. Mercer hooked his rappel line first. Move! One by one, the Rangers descended into darkness. Elena went last. The moment her boots touched the muddy ground, every instinct inside her activated automatically. Humidity, rotting vegetation, movement in distant trees. The jungle felt alive. And watching. The helicopter vanished above them, leaving only darkness and rain. Night vision goggles flickered green across their faces. Mercer raised a fist. The team moved forward silently. For hours they pushed through thick jungle terrain. Giant roots twisted across the ground like snakes. Insects crawled over their gloves. Rivers of mud slowed every step. Nobody complained. Rangers never complained. But tension slowly grew heavier. Ruiz whispered while cutting through vines. Feels like we're walking into a grave. Shut up, another soldier muttered. Elena stayed near the rear, studying the environment carefully. Then she noticed it. A branch. Freshly broken. She crouched beside it. Still wet. Recently touched. Her eyes narrowed. She scanned the mud nearby. Footprints. Not theirs. At least 10 men. Military boots. Following them. Elena pressed her radio. Possible tail behind us. Mercer kept walking, negative. She looked again. The spacing was disciplined. Professional. Sir, she said colder this time, they're shadowing our route. Mercer stopped with visible annoyance. You sure? Elena slowly stood. Yes. Silence spread through the team. Even Ruiz looked nervous now. Mercer signaled security positions. The Rangers spread out quietly between trees. Rain continued pouring. 30 seconds passed. Nothing. 1 minute. Still nothing. Mercer glanced toward Alina with irritation. Then, crack! A sniper round smashed into a soldier's chest. Chaos exploded instantly. Contact front. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Muzzle flashes tore through the darkness. The Rangers dropped behind rocks and fallen trees, while bullets shredded leaves overhead. It's an ambush. The jungle lit up with explosions. Enemy fighters screamed through the trees. Alina rolled behind cover and fired 3 rapid shots. 3 militia soldiers dropped instantly. Left side movement, she shouted. Mercer fired aggressively uphill, push forward. But the enemy already controlled the terrain. Machine guns opened from hidden bunkers. Mortars slammed nearby. Mud and blood blasted through the air. One ranger screamed after shrapnel tore through his leg. Ruiz dragged him behind cover. Medic. No answer. Their medic was already dead. Alina's breathing slowed. Her mind became ice cold. Everything around her moved in slow motion now. She spotted muzzle flashes hidden near elevated rocks. Machine gun nest. Pinning the entire team. If it stayed active another minute, they were finished. She grabbed a grenade. Mercer saw her moving. Brooks, don't. Too late. Alina sprinted into gunfire. Bullets ripped through leaves around her as she slid through mud, using roots and rocks for cover. One militia fighter suddenly appeared from behind a tree. She slammed her knife into his throat before he could fire. Kept moving. The machine gun thundered louder. She reached the ridge. Pulled the grenade pin. 3 seconds. 2. 1. Throw. Boom. The bunker exploded in fire and dirt. The machine gun fell silent. Move, move, Mercer yelled. The Rangers pushed forward immediately. But then another mortar round crashed nearby. The blast threw Alina violently backward. She flew down a steep, muddy slope, smashing through branches and rocks before crashing hard against a tree trunk. Pain exploded through her shoulder. Her vision blurred. For several seconds she couldn't breathe. Above her, distant gunfire echoed through the jungle. Alina. Brooks, respond. She grabbed her radio painfully. This is Brooks, I'm below the ridge. Static. Dead signal. Rain poured over her face as she forced herself upright. Her left shoulder burned badly. Possibly dislocated. She looked uphill. Nothing visible. Only darkness. Then she heard it. The helicopter. Extraction. Her heart stopped. No. The sound grew louder overhead. She grabbed the radio again desperately. Mercer, I'm here. Static. The helicopter slowly moved away. Farther. Farther. Gone. They left her. Alone. 40 miles inside enemy territory. For a long moment, Alina stood motionless in the rain. Not shocked. Not emotional. Just silent. Then voices echoed nearby. Enemy soldiers. Flashlights moved through the jungle above her. Dogs barking. Searching for survivors. Alina instantly crouched low. Training took over. Pain disappeared. Fear disappeared. Survival mode activated. She quietly checked her gear. 1 rifle. 1 pistol. Combat knife. 3 magazines. 2 grenades. Limited medical supplies. No radio signal. No extraction. No map support. She was completely alone. A flashlight beam swept nearby. Voices approached fast. Alina slipped deeper into the jungle shadows. 2 hours later, the rain finally slowed. Alina moved silently through dense jungle terrain, staying near streams to hide her tracks. Every few minutes she stopped to listen. The enemy patrols were everywhere. The Red Vipers knew an American soldier was still alive. And they wanted her badly. She reached a small, elevated ridge overlooking a river valley. Then froze. Below her stood an enemy camp. At least 20 militia fighters. Armed trucks. Watchtowers. Satellite equipment. And in the center, a prisoner cage. Inside sat 3 terrified men. One wore civilian clothes. Thin, bearded, bruised. Alina narrowed her eyes. CIA asset Sparrow. Alive. Her pulse quickened. The mission wasn't dead yet. Then she noticed something worse. Another prisoner beside Sparrow. American. Military haircut. Hands tied. Barely conscious. Alina focused harder. Recognition hit instantly. Private Logan Reed. A young ranger from another missing recon team that disappeared 2 weeks earlier. Everyone thought they were dead. But one survived. A militia fighter punched Reed hard across the face. Another laughed. Alina's jaw tightened. She studied the camp carefully. Too many enemies. Too exposed. Impossible rescue alone. But she couldn't leave them. Not after being abandoned herself. Suddenly, snap! A branch cracked behind her. Alina spun instantly. A militia scout stood only 10 feet away, shocked to see her. For one frozen second, both stared at each other. Then he reached for his rifle. Alina moved first. She lunged forward, slammed him against a tree, and drove her knife into his chest. But before dying, the scout fired one wild shot into the air. Bang! The entire jungle went silent. Then alarms erupted inside the camp below. Search the ridge. Find her. Flashlights exploded across the darkness. Dogs barked violently. Alina cursed under her breath and ran. Bullets tore through trees behind her. The jungle instantly became chaos. She jumped over roots and crashed through thick vegetation, while enemy soldiers pursued from every direction. A flashlight beam locked onto her. There, gunfire erupted. One bullet grazed her arm. Another smashed into a tree inches from her head. Alina slid down a muddy slope toward the river below. Without hesitation, she jumped. The freezing current swallowed her instantly. She disappeared beneath the black water, while enemy soldiers reached the riverbank above. Where did she go? She jumped. Searched downstream. Alina stayed underwater as long as possible. The current dragged her through darkness and rocks before finally throwing her against muddy shore farther downstream. She crawled out gasping for air. Bleeding. Exhausted. But alive. For several minutes she lay motionless beneath thick roots, listening carefully. No voices nearby. Good. She slowly removed her backpack and checked her wounds. Arm cut. Bruised ribs. Shoulder damaged. Nothing fatal. Yet. Then she noticed something inside her vest pocket. A small tracking chip. Her expression hardened instantly. They didn't accidentally leave her behind. Someone planted a tracker on her. Someone wanted the enemy to find her. Only one person had touched her gear before deployment. Mercer. Her breathing slowed dangerously. Betrayal. The realization hit harder than any bullet. Mercer abandoned her on purpose. But why? Before she could think further, distant engines echoed through the jungle. Vehicles approaching. Search teams expanding. Elena crushed the tracker beneath a rock, then vanished deeper into the darkness again. Near midnight, she found temporary shelter inside an abandoned Japanese bunker left from an old war decades earlier. The structure was half collapsed and covered in vines, but hidden enough to rest briefly. Elena barricaded the entrance quietly, then finally allowed herself one moment to breathe. Her hands trembled slightly from exhaustion. Not fear. Anger. She replayed the helicopter sound again, inside her head. Mercer leaving. No attempt to search. No rescue. Nothing. She stared at the rain outside the bunker entrance. They wanted me dead. The words sounded strange aloud, but deep down she already knew. Then another thought hit her. If Mercer betrayed her, could the mission itself be compromised too? Was Sparrow really the objective? Or bait? Elena checked the enemy tracker pieces again. Professional military hardware. Not militia equipment. American. Something bigger was happening. Suddenly, a weak voice echoed from deeper inside the bunker. Don't shoot. Elena instantly grabbed her pistol and turned. A figure slowly emerged from the darkness. Dirty. Injured. Bearded. Wearing torn civilian clothes. The man raised shaking hands. Elena Brooks. Her eyes narrowed immediately. How do you know my name? The stranger swallowed hard. Because they've been waiting for you. Silence. Rain hammered outside the bunker, while Elena aimed directly at his head. The man looked terrified. Then he whispered words that made her blood run cold. The CIA asset isn't the mission. He stared straight into her eyes. You are. Rainwater dripped from the cracked bunker ceiling. Elena kept her pistol aimed directly at the stranger's forehead, while thunder rolled outside like distant artillery. The man looked exhausted, starving and terrified. But Elena had survived too many operations to trust fear. Start talking, she said coldly. The stranger slowly raised both hands higher. My name is Daniel Hale, CIA field analyst. Elena's eyes narrowed. Proof. He carefully reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a metal identification capsule. Elena snatched it instantly without lowering her weapon. The ID was real, or at least good enough to fool most people. Why are they waiting for me? She asked. Hale hesitated. Wrong move. Elena stepped closer and pressed the pistol harder against his head. You've got 3 seconds. You intercepted something, Hale blurted quickly. 3 months ago in Syria, a hard drive. Elena froze slightly. Syria. Operation Black Dagger. She remembered. Her recon unit had raided a weapons facility hidden beneath an abandoned factory. Most soldiers thought they were recovering missile coordinates. But Elena had discovered encrypted files inside a hidden server room. She handed everything to intelligence afterward. Standard procedure. How do you know about that? She asked quietly. Hale swallowed. Because the files exposed a covert weapons network involving military contractors, corrupt intelligence officers, and American officials. The bunker suddenly felt colder. Elena stared at him silently. Hale continued carefully. Someone high up learned you accessed the files before they were deleted. I never opened them. You didn't need to. The system logged your identity. Elena's jaw tightened. Now it made sense. The strange reassignment. Mercer's hostility. The tracker. This mission was never an extraction mission. It was disposal. Hale looked toward the bunker entrance nervously. They sent you here because nobody survives this jungle. Before Elena could respond, bark, bark, bark. Dogs. Close. Very close. Hale's face turned pale instantly. They found us. Elena extinguished the small flashlight immediately. Darkness swallowed the bunker. Outside, enemy voices echoed through the jungle. Search every structure. She's nearby. Flashlights swept across the rain-soaked trees. Elena grabbed Hale by the collar. Can you move? Barely. Good enough. They slipped deeper into the old bunker tunnels, just as flashlight beams crossed the entrance outside. The underground passage smelled of rust, mold, and old death. Elena moved carefully through darkness, while distant enemy footsteps echoed behind them. Hale whispered nervously, "You think Mercer works with them?" "I think Mercer works for whoever wants me dead." Suddenly, a flashlight beam appeared at the far tunnel entrance. Enemy soldiers. El Túnel, one shouted. Gunfire exploded instantly. Bullets ricocheted through the narrow corridor. Elena shoved Hale behind concrete debris and returned precise fire. One militia fighter dropped. Another screamed. But more kept coming. Too many. Elena, Hale shouted, "This way." He pointed toward a rusted maintenance shaft, barely large enough to crawl through. Not ideal, but better than dying. They squeezed inside as bullets ripped through the tunnel behind them. The shaft descended sharply downward into darkness. Elena crawled fast despite pain tearing through her shoulder. Behind them, enemy soldiers entered the shaft. Flashlights danced closer. One fighter grabbed Elena's boot. She twisted violently and stabbed downward through the metal gap. The man screamed and fell backward into the tunnel below, crashing into others. The shaft suddenly collapsed behind them. Dust exploded everywhere. Silence followed. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Hale laughed nervously. "We're alive." Elena glared at him. "Don't celebrate yet." An hour later, they emerged from the underground tunnel nearly 2 miles deeper into the jungle. The storm had weakened, but fog now covered the forest floor like smoke. Elena scanned the area carefully. No immediate threats. For now. Hale leaned against a tree, breathing heavily. "You move like a machine." "Occupational hazard." He studied her for a moment. "You really didn't know?" "No." They buried entire teams over those files. Elena looked at him sharply. "What teams?" Hale hesitated again, then answered quietly. "American teams." The jungle suddenly felt silent. Hale continued. "There's a black operation running inside the region. Illegal weapons shipments disguised as anti-terror aid. Some people inside U.S. intelligence are making billions." And Sparrow. He discovered shipment routes, tried to expose them. So why leave him alive? Because they wanted bait. Elena slowly pieced everything together. Mercer's mission. The ambush. The tracker. Everything had been carefully arranged. She wasn't sent to rescue Sparrow. She was sent to disappear. A distant engine sound interrupted her thoughts. Vehicles again. Search patrols expanding. Hale looked terrified. "They won't stop hunting us." Elena checked her remaining ammo. Low. Very low. Then she made a decision. "We're going back." Hale blinked. "What?" "The camp." "Are you insane?" "Probably." She loaded her rifle. "But Sparrow and the Ranger are still alive. That camp has 30 armed militia fighters." Elena stared into the darkness. Then we kill 30 militia fighters. 2 hours before dawn, the enemy camp burned with activity. Floodlights illuminated the perimeter, while armed guards patrolled aggressively after the earlier search failure. Inside the prisoner cage, Sparrow sat weak and bloodied beside Private Logan Reed. Reed looked half dead. A militia commander approached them slowly. Tall, scarred face, cold eyes. Colonel Victor Drakov, former Eastern European mercenary turned Red Viper warlord. Known for torture videos and massacres across multiple countries. Drakov crouched in front of Sparrow calmly. "The American woman," he said, "where is she?" Sparrow spat blood at his boots. Drakov smiled slightly, then shot another prisoner beside them in the head. Bang! Reed flinched violently. Drakov leaned closer. "She is very important to powerful people." Sparrow remained silent. Drakov sighed. "Then we continue slowly." At that exact moment, Alina watched everything through binoculars from high ground above the camp. Her expression never changed, but inside rage burned quietly. Hale whispered beside her, "You can't attack this directly." "I know." "Then what's the plan?" Alina studied the camp carefully. Fuel barrels near vehicles. Weak eastern fence. Guard rotation every 6 minutes. Sniper nest near radio tower. Then she saw something useful. A supply truck entering the camp. Her eyes sharpened instantly. "We don't attack directly." Hale looked confused. "What do we do?" Alina checked her knife. "We walk inside." 20 minutes later, the supply truck rolled slowly through the muddy jungle road. The driver smoked lazily, while another guard sat beside him half asleep. Neither noticed the shadow moving silently beneath the truck. Alina clung underneath the vehicle, while Hale hid farther back near the road. The truck entered the camp without inspection. Big mistake. The moment it stopped near the supply tents, Alina dropped silently underneath. One guard turned. Too late. She covered his mouth and snapped his neck instantly. The second reached for his weapon. Knife through throat. Silent. Vast. Efficient. Alina dragged both bodies beneath the truck and stole one uniform jacket. Then she moved through the camp like a ghost. Floodlights swept overhead. Militia fighters laughed near fires. Nobody noticed her. Not yet. She reached the prisoner cage area. 2 guards stood nearby. Alina picked up a small stone and tossed it behind them. The guards turned instinctively. 3 suppressed shots. PFFT, PFFT, PFFT. Both bodies dropped. Alina rushed forward and cut the cage lock. Sparrow stared at her in disbelief. "You're supposed to be dead." "Bad luck for them." She moved toward Reed. The young ranger looked barely conscious. "Alina," he whispered weakly. "You with me, soldier?" He nodded slightly. Then alarms suddenly exploded across the camp. A dead guard had been discovered. Searchlights activated instantly. Intruder. Gunfire erupted. Alina cursed under her breath. So much for quiet. She pulled Reed upright while Sparrow grabbed a fallen rifle. Militia fighters flooded toward them from every direction. Alina opened fire first. Precise bursts dropped enemies rapidly. "Move," she shouted. The camp exploded into chaos. Bullets tore through tents, while sirens screamed across the jungle. Drakov emerged near the command center furiously. "Kill them." Machine guns opened immediately. Alina shoved Reed behind cover as bullets shredded the cage area. Sparrow fired wildly beside her. "We're trapped." "No," Alina said coldly. She looked toward the fuel trucks. "We're leaving loudly." She pulled a grenade, then sprinted directly toward the vehicles. "Brooks," Sparrow yelled. Too late. Alina slid beneath heavy gunfire, rolled behind a truck, and shoved the grenade deep beneath stacked fuel barrels. 3 seconds. She ran. The explosion hit like an earthquake. Boom. Fire consumed half the camp instantly. Fuel trucks erupted into massive fireballs. Militia fighters screamed, while burning debris flew through the air. Shockwaves shattered nearby buildings. Complete chaos. Alina grabbed Reed again. "Run!" They sprinted toward the eastern fence, while Sparrow covered behind them. But suddenly, crack! A sniper shot echoed. Sparrow collapsed instantly. Blood spread across his chest. "Alina," he gasped. She dropped beside him. Sniper fire hit the dirt nearby again. Drakov's elite marksman had perfect sightlines. Sparrow grabbed Alina's vest weakly. "Take the drive." He shoved a tiny waterproof data chip into her hand. Then his eyes stopped moving. "Dead." Alina's expression hardened. No time. More militia fighters surrounded them rapidly. Reed could barely stand. Then another terrifying sound echoed across the jungle. Helicopters. Multiple helicopters. But these weren't rescue aircraft. Black unmarked gunships. Hale stared upward in horror from nearby cover. "Oh God!" The helicopters opened fire on the entire camp. Missiles slammed into buildings. Heavy machine guns tore through militia fighters indiscriminately. Drakov screamed orders while explosions consumed everything. Alina realized the truth instantly. Cleanup operation. Someone wanted everyone dead. Militia included. One helicopter spotlight suddenly locked onto Alina. A voice blasted through speakers. "Sergeant Elena Brooks." The jungle froze around her. "Drop the data drive." Another missile destroyed a nearby tower. The voice continued coldly. "You have 10 seconds." Reed looked terrified. Hale whispered, "They're here for you." The spotlight burned directly into Alina's face, while gunships circled overhead like predators. Then the countdown began. 10. "Alina," Reed whispered. 9. Militia fighters kept firing blindly into the sky. 8. The helicopters lowered closer. 7. Alina slowly tightened her grip on the data drive. 6. Rain began falling again. Heavy rain. 5. The jungle trembled with gunfire and firestorms. 4. Alina looked toward the dark river beyond the burning camp. Then back at the helicopters. Decision time. 3. She grabbed Reed. "Hold on." "What are you doing?" 2. Alina sprinted directly toward the cliff edge behind the camp. Machine guns opened instantly behind her. 1. And just before the helicopters fired, Alina Brooks jumped off the cliff into complete darkness below. The fall felt endless. Wind roared past Alina's ears as darkness swallowed her whole. Above her, helicopter spotlights slashed across the storm like giant white knives. Then, crash! Ice-cold water slammed into her body. Pain exploded through her injured shoulder as the river dragged her violently beneath the surface. The current was unbelievably strong, spinning her through rocks and branches underwater. Alina fought to stay conscious. "Don't panic. Don't fight the river. Work with it." Her ranger training forced calm into her mind, even while the current tried to drown her. Somewhere nearby, Reed screamed her name before disappearing into the darkness. Alina reached desperately through the black water. Nothing. Then a spotlight suddenly pierced the river above. The helicopters were tracking them. Gunfire erupted into the water. Bullets sliced through the river around her like angry hornets. Alina kicked deeper underwater and let the current pull her farther downstream. Her lungs burned. Her shoulders screamed in pain. But finally, after what felt like forever, the river threw her against muddy shore beneath thick jungle roots. She crawled onto land, gasping violently for air. Alive. Barely. Rain hammered the jungle again. Above the river canyon, helicopters searched aggressively with floodlights. Alina Brooks, a loudspeaker echoed through the valley, "You cannot escape." Alina lay motionless in the mud, forcing herself to breathe slowly. Then she heard coughing nearby. "Reed." She turned instantly. The young ranger was tangled against fallen branches a few meters away, barely conscious but alive. Alina crawled toward him quickly. "Reed." He opened his eyes weakly. "You always jump off cliffs like that." "Only on bad days." Despite everything, he laughed painfully. Blood covered the side of his face. One leg bent awkwardly beneath him. Possible fracture. Not good. Above them, helicopter lights continued sweeping across the river. They didn't have much time. Alina dragged Reed beneath thicker jungle cover, just as machine gun fire shredded the riverbank nearby. They saw movement. Someone shouted from above. Search teams were already descending. Alina checked her ammo. Almost empty. One magazine left for the rifle. 8 rounds in the pistol. That was it. Reed noticed immediately. "We're not surviving this, are we?" Alina looked him directly in the eyes. "Not with that attitude." 2 miles deeper into the jungle. Dawn slowly approached through heavy fog. Alina helped Reed limp through dense vegetation, while distant helicopters still circled the valley. The jungle now felt completely awake. Birds screamed overhead. Monkeys crashed through trees. Every sound blended with the distant noise of search patrols. Reed's condition worsened every minute. Fever. Heavy bleeding. Exhaustion. Alina finally stopped near an abandoned fishing hut hidden beside a swamp. "Sit." Reed collapsed against the wooden wall, while Alina examined his leg carefully. "Bullet wound. Deep, but clean. Lucky." "You're gonna hate this," she warned. "I already hate this." Alina pushed the fractured bone back into position. Reed screamed loud enough to scare birds from nearby trees. She wrapped the leg tightly with torn cloth and injected the last painkiller from her medical kit. "Congratulations," she said. "You're officially alive." Reed breathed heavily. "You always this friendly." "No, I'm being polite because you're bleeding." For the first time since the mission began, Reed smiled slightly. Then his expression turned serious. "They left you too, didn't they?" Alina stayed silent for a moment. "Yes." Reed stared at the floor. "My whole team disappeared 2 weeks ago. Command said we got compromised during recon." "You think that was a lie?" "I know it was." He looked up slowly. "We found American weapons shipments being sold to terrorist groups. The moment we reported it, everything went bad." Alina's grip tightened around the data drive inside her vest. Same operation. Same conspiracy. Different dead soldiers. Suddenly, a low engine sound echoed nearby. "Vehicles. Close." Alina immediately extinguished the lantern inside the hut. Outside, voices approached. Not militia this time. Professional. American. Reed whispered nervously, "Special Forces." Elena carefully peeked through a crack in the wall. 3 black SUVs rolled through the jungle trail. Men stepped out wearing unmarked tactical gear. No flags, no insignias, but their movement screamed military. One man removed his sunglasses despite the rain. Elena froze instantly. Captain Marcus Kane, former Delta Force, now private military contractor, and one of the deadliest men she had ever met. Reed saw her expression. "You know him?" "Yes, friend." Elena loaded her rifle quietly. "Not anymore." Outside, Kane studied the muddy ground calmly, then smiled slightly. "She's close." One of his men asked, "You sure?" Kane pointed toward fresh footprints near the swamp. "She's protecting someone injured, slower movement pattern." His eyes scanned the jungle like a hunter. "She's tired now." Inside the hut, Reed whispered, "How dangerous is he?" Elena answered honestly, "If Kane finds us, we die." The SUV spread out through the jungle. Kane's men moved with terrifying discipline, checking every structure carefully. Elena knew they had minutes at most, maybe less. She quietly opened the back wall of the fishing hut. "Can you run?" Reed looked at his leg. "Define run." "Good enough." They slipped into the swamp behind the hut, just as footsteps approached the front entrance. The swamp water reached waist level. Thick mud sucked at every movement. Perfect place to disappear. Perfect place to die. Behind them, the hut door slammed open. "Clear." Another voice shouted, "Fresh blood here." Kane entered slowly afterward, then stopped. His eyes moved toward the broken back wall. He smiled again. "She's close." Outside, Elena and Reed moved silently through reeds while insects swarmed around them. Reed whispered painfully, "He sounds confident." "He should be." Kane had once trained survival teams in Central America. Jungle tracking was his specialty, which meant Elena now faced a hunter who understood exactly how she thought. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Suddenly, dogs barked behind them. "Tracker dogs." Reed cursed softly. "They brought hounds." Elena looked around quickly. No good escape routes. Then her eyes locked onto something half-submerged nearby. An old fuel boat. Rotting, but useful. She grabbed Reed. Inside, they crawled beneath the broken boat hull just as search teams entered the swamp. Flashlights swept across the reeds. Dogs barked wildly. One stopped only feet away from their hiding place. Reed slowly raised his pistol with shaking hands. Elena placed a hand on the weapon gently. "No unnecessary shots." "Not yet." The dog growled louder. "Closer. Closer." Then suddenly, another explosion echoed somewhere far uphill. All the search teams turned instantly. What was that? A radio crackled. "Camp Bravo under attack." Kane's expression hardened immediately. "Who attacked?" Static answered. Then gunfire erupted faintly in the distance. Heavy gunfire. Kane looked confused for the first time. Elena doesn't have enough firepower for that. He signaled his men. "Move." The teams quickly withdrew toward the vehicles. Within minutes, silence returned to the swamp. Reed exhaled slowly. What the hell was that? Elena stared toward the distant smoke rising through the trees. "I don't know." But deep down, she had a bad feeling. Several hours later, Elena and Reed reached higher ground, overlooking a small abandoned village deep inside the jungle mountains. Smoke rose from cooking fires below. People moved between wooden huts. Armed people. Reed raised his rifle nervously. Militia. Alina studied them carefully. No. One man suddenly appeared behind them from the trees. Old. Gray beard. AK-47, aimed directly at Alina's head. You walk loudly for soldiers. Alina didn't move. The old man looked at Reed's injuries. Then at Alina. You are the American woman. Not a question. A statement. Alina slowly lowered her weapon slightly. Who are you? The old man answered calmly. People here call me Ghost. Interesting name. Ghost nodded toward the village below. You should not stay exposed. Kane's hunters are nearby. Alina's eyes narrowed. How do you know Kane? Ghost gave a humorless smile. Because I taught him. Silence. Well, that explained a lot. Ghost motioned for them to follow. You have enemies everywhere now, even inside your own country. Alina exchanged a quick glance with Reed, then followed carefully. The village hidden in the mountains felt frozen in time. Families cooked food over open fires. Children watched silently from windows. Armed guards patrolled rooftops carefully. These weren't militia fighters. They were survivors. Ghost led Alina into a wooden hut filled with maps, radios, and old military equipment. You were followed here, he asked. Probably. Ghost sighed heavily. Then Kane will arrive before sunset. Reed sat down painfully. Who exactly are these people? Ghost poured water slowly into metal cups. Years ago we worked for governments, intelligence agencies, special operations, black missions. His eyes darkened. Then we discovered we were being used to protect criminal empires. Alina listened carefully. Ghost pointed toward the data drive inside her vest. That file contains transaction records, names, shipment routes, assassinations, enough to destroy powerful people. Reed looked stunned. So why not release it? Because every communication channel is compromised. Ghost turned toward Alina again. That is why they want you dead before you reach civilization. Thunder echoed outside again. Then, boom! An explosion shook the village violently. Everyone froze. A second explosion followed immediately afterward. Children screamed outside. Ghost moved instantly toward the window. Kane! Gunfire erupted across the village. Search teams stormed through the outer defenses with military precision. Villagers fired back desperately. Kane's forces moved like machines. Explosions consumed wooden buildings. People ran in panic. Reed grabbed his rifle. They found us already. Ghost looked at Alina grimly. He anticipated your movements. Outside, Kane walked calmly through the burning village while bullets flew around him. A loudspeaker echoed across the chaos. Alina. His voice sounded almost amused. You're making this harder than necessary. Alina loaded her final rifle magazine. Kane continued walking forward confidently. You know how this ends. Ghost handed Alina an old radio transmitter. There's an extraction contact north of the mountain ridge, 2 days from here. Alina looked at him. Can he be trusted? Ghost answered quietly. He owes me his life. Another explosion rocked the hut. Walls cracked. Kane's men were getting closer fast. Reed looked terrified now. We're surrounded. Alina checked the windows carefully. Not completely. Yet. Then Kane's voice echoed again outside. You have 1 minute before I level this village. Ghost grabbed Alina's shoulder firmly. Go now. What about the villagers? Ghost smiled sadly. We survived wars before you were born. Outside, machine guns opened again. The village burned brighter. Elena knew the truth. Staying meant everyone died. She looked at Reed. Can you move? He nodded painfully. Ghost opened a hidden trapdoor beneath the hut floor. Tunnel leads beyond the ridge. Elena hesitated only 1 second. Then she climbed down with Reed. Before closing the hatch, Ghost looked directly into her eyes. Do not trust anyone wearing your flag. Then the hatch slammed shut. Darkness swallowed them. Above the tunnel, war exploded across the village. And somewhere outside in the burning jungle, Captain Marcus Kane smiled while hunting the only soldier who had survived every trap designed to kill her. The tunnel shook violently above them. Dust rained from the wooden supports while explosions thundered across the village overhead. Elena moved quickly through the darkness, one hand gripping her rifle, the other supporting Reed as they pushed deeper underground. Behind them, muffled gunfire echoed nonstop. Ghost and the villagers were buying them time. With blood, Reed limped beside her, breathing harder every minute. You think they'll survive? Elena stayed silent for a moment. No. The answer hung heavily in the darkness. Ahead, faint daylight appeared through the end of the tunnel. Elena extinguished her flashlight instantly and approached carefully. Never rush an exit, especially when someone like Kane hunted you. She crouched near the tunnel opening and scanned the jungle outside. Nothing visible. No movement. No voices. But her instincts still screamed danger. Elena studied the mud carefully. Then saw it. Tripwire. Nearly invisible between 2 wet roots. She cut it quietly. A hidden claymore mine sat buried nearby. Reed stared at her in disbelief. They knew we'd use the tunnel. Kane knows how I think. She looked uphill toward distant smoke rising from the burning village. No more mistakes. By sunrise, they had climbed high into the mountain jungle. The air turned colder. Fog drifted between giant trees while distant waterfalls echoed through the valley. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt like the entire jungle waited to kill them. Reed's condition worsened badly. His fever was climbing. Blood soaked through the bandages around his leg. Elena finally stopped near a cliffside cave hidden behind thick vines. Temporary shelter. Nothing more. She helped Reed sit against the stone wall while she checked the map Ghost had given her. North Ridge. Old airfield. Extraction contact. 2 days away. Too far with Reed injured. And Kane closing in. Reed noticed her expression. You're thinking about leaving me. No. You hesitated. Elena loaded fresh rounds into her pistol calmly. I was calculating survival odds. And she looked at him honestly. They're terrible. Reed laughed weakly despite the pain. You really know how to motivate people. Before Elena could answer, her radio suddenly crackled for the first time in days. Both froze instantly. Static. Then, Elena, if you can hear this, respond. Mercer. Elena's face hardened immediately. Reed looked shocked. That's him. She grabbed the radio slowly but said nothing. Mercer continued. Brooks, listen carefully. You're being manipulated. Kane's rogue. The CIA operation collapsed. I can still get you home. Elena almost laughed. Home. After abandoning her. Mercer's voice softened. I know you think I betrayed you. You did, Elena finally answered coldly. Silence. Then Mercer spoke quietly. You were never supposed to survive the ambush. Reed stared at her. Mercer continued before Elena could respond. The order came from above me, way above me. They told me you accessed classified intel connected to national security. So you left me to die. I tried to warn you. You planted a tracker on me. More silence. Then, yes. Rain tapped softly against the cave entrance. Mercer sounded exhausted now. You don't understand how deep this goes. Try me. The people behind this operation control generals, intelligence directors, private armies. And you obeyed them. Mercer inhaled sharply. They threatened my family. Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. First real emotion in his voice. They said if I didn't cooperate, my wife and son disappear. Reed whispered, Jesus. Mercer continued quickly. But things changed after the camp attack. They've lost control now. Kane wants the drive for himself. Interesting. That changed things. Elena, Mercer said carefully, if Kane gets that data, he won't expose anybody. He'll sell it. Elena looked toward the jungle outside. Maybe Mercer lied. Maybe not. Hard to know anymore. Then Mercer said something unexpected. There's a secure extraction point at Raven Airfield. Reach it before sunset tomorrow. I'll meet you personally. Reed immediately shook his head. It's a trap. Probably. Mercer's voice lowered. You don't have many options left, Brooks. Static returned. Then the signal died. The cave became silent again. Reed looked at Elena carefully. You trust him? No. Then what now? Elena checked the remaining ammo. 1 rifle magazine. 5 pistol rounds. 2 grenades. Almost nothing. Then she stood. We finished the mission. Hours later. The jungle became quieter. Too quiet. Elena hated quiet jungles. Usually meant predators nearby. She and Reed moved along narrow mountain paths toward the North Ridge, while helicopters occasionally thundered far overhead. Then Elena suddenly stopped. Reed nearly walked into her. What? She pointed silently toward the mud ahead. Fresh footprints. Multiple. Professional formation. Kane's men. Close. Very close. Elena scanned the terrain instantly. Dense cliffs to the left. River gorge to the right. Limited escape routes. Bad position. Then she spotted something farther ahead through the fog. An old Japanese communication station from World War II, built into the mountain. Concrete. Defensible. Perfect for a temporary stand. We move there, she whispered. They hurried toward the structure, just as distant voices echoed behind them. Tracks confirmed. They're ahead. Kane's hunters had found them again. Elena and Reed entered the ruined station moments before gunfire erupted outside. Bullets smashed into concrete walls. Reed dropped beside a broken radio table, while Elena returned controlled fire through shattered windows. One mercenary fell instantly outside. Another dragged him behind cover. These weren't militia fighters. These were elite contractors. Vast. Disciplined. Deadly. Outside, Kane stepped calmly through the fog while bullets cracked around him. Elena, he shouted. His voice echoed through the mountains. You can't carry that drive forever. Elena fired another burst. Concrete exploded near Kane, but he barely flinched. Reed whispered nervously, he's insane. No, Elena answered. He's confident. Big difference. Kane's men surrounded the station slowly. One tossed smoke grenades through broken windows. The room instantly filled with thick gray smoke. Reed coughed violently. Alina moved immediately. Back exit. They sprinted through a rear hallway as mercenaries stormed the front entrance. Footsteps thundered behind them. Too close. A mercenary rounded the corner suddenly. Alina shot him point blank. Another grabbed her rifle barrel from the smoke. She slammed her knife into his ribs and kicked him backward down the stairs. "Move," she shouted at Reed. They burst outside onto a narrow cliff path above the gorge. Rain had started again. Of course it had. The jungle never gave mercy. Gunfire erupted behind them as Kane's team emerged from the station. Bullets sparked against rocks around Alina. Then Reed suddenly cried out. He collapsed hard, shot in the side. Alina! Blood spread rapidly across his uniform. Damn! She dragged him behind rocks while mercenaries advanced steadily downhill. Reed grabbed her arm weakly. You have to go. No. You know I'm dead. Alina pressed bandages against the wound hard. You talk too much. Reed smiled painfully. You remind me of my sister. Alina paused briefly. Dangerous thing. Emotional attachment. It got soldiers killed. Kane's voice echoed closer now. It's over, Alina. She checked the cliff edge beside them. Straight drop into the river far below. Another impossible jump. Reed noticed. You really love cliffs. Alina almost smiled. Almost. Then she pulled out her final grenade. Kane wants the drive. Reed stared at her. You're baiting him. Yes. She placed the data drive visibly inside her vest pocket. Then stood up deliberately from cover. Instantly, every rifle aimed at her. Rain poured heavily across the mountain. Kane slowly approached through the fog with pistol drawn. No more running. Alina looked exhausted now. Covered in mud, blood, and rain. Exactly how she wanted to appear. Kane stopped only 20 feet away. You've caused serious problems, he said calmly. You murdered American soldiers. So did the people you worked for. Kane smiled slightly. Difference is, I admit what I am. His men surrounded the cliff carefully. No escape. Kane extended his hand. Give me the drive. Alina stared at him silently. Then asked quietly, You ever wonder why they picked me for this mission? Kane frowned slightly. What? Because I'm difficult to kill. Before anyone reacted, Alina pulled the grenade pin and threw it directly at the cliff wall beside Kane's team. Boom! The explosion shattered massive rocks above them. The mountainside collapsed instantly. Mercenaries screamed as boulders crushed the narrow path. Chaos exploded everywhere. Alina grabbed Reed and jumped off the cliff again, just as the entire ridge collapsed behind them. Kane barely survived by grabbing exposed roots near the edge. His furious scream echoed through the valley, while Alina and Reed crashed into the river below. Nightfall. Raven Airfield. Abandoned since the Cold War. One runway. One control tower. Miles of jungle surrounding it. And at the center of the airfield stood a black military transport plane with engines running. Mercer waited beside it alone. Rain hammered the runway while floodlights cut through the darkness. He looked older now. More tired. Then movement appeared near the jungle edge. Alina emerged slowly from the trees supporting Reed. Both looked half dead. Mercer exhaled in relief. You made it. Alina kept her rifle aimed directly at him. Don't move. Mercer nodded slowly. Fair enough. Reed whispered weakly, something feels wrong. Alina already knew. Too quiet. No crew visible. No perimeter security. No backup. Then she heard it. Helicopters. Approaching fast. Mercer heard them too. His face changed instantly. No. Black gunships burst through the storm clouds above the runway. Kane had followed them. Machine guns opened immediately. The transport plane exploded into flames. Mercer tackled Elena behind concrete barriers as bullets shredded the runway. "They tracked my signal," he shouted. Kane's forces descended rapidly around the airfield. "Complete kill box." Mercer handed Elena another pistol quickly. "I'm sorry," he said. She looked at him coldly. "For which part?" "For all of it." Then he stood and opened fire at the incoming mercenaries. 3 dropped instantly. Mercer screamed over the gunfire. "Get the drive out of here." Elena grabbed Reed and sprinted toward the control tower, while explosions consumed the runway behind them. Kane's men flooded the airfield. Mercer fought like a man already dead. And maybe he was. Elena reached the tower entrance just as Kane himself landed nearby from a helicopter rope. Their eyes met across the burning runway. Predator versus survivor. Final round. Inside the tower, Elena barricaded the doors while Reed collapsed beside old radio equipment. "We can't hold them," he said weakly. Elena looked out the window. She knew. Then her eyes found something below. An old emergency broadcast transmitter connected to military satellites. Still operational. Interesting. Very interesting. Kane's men began smashing through the lower floors. Time running out. Elena inserted the data drive into the transmitter port. Uploading started immediately. Reed stared at the screen. "You're sending everything. To everyone. Government servers. International agencies. Media satellites. Every secret file. Every payment record. Every name. No more cover-up possible." Downstairs, mercenaries breached the second floor. Kane's voice echoed upward. "Elena." The upload reached 52%. Then 71%. Gunfire exploded downstairs again. Mercer appeared briefly at the stairwell covered in blood. "They're coming." Elena looked at him. "You should leave." Mercer laughed painfully. "Not happening." The upload hit 94%. Kane stormed upstairs with remaining mercenaries. Weapons raised. Elena aimed back. Nobody fired. Not yet. Rain thundered outside while the upload slowly finished. Kane stared at the screen. "You have no idea what happens after this." Elena answered calmly. "Yes, I do." Upload complete. The transmitter flashed green. Files sent worldwide. Silence filled the tower. Then distant sirens echoed across the valley. Military jets roared overhead. Real military. Not mercenaries. Kane realized instantly. Too late. Elena finally lowered her weapon slightly. The mission's complete. Outside, dawn slowly broke over the jungle for the first time in 3 days. And the army girl they abandoned in enemy territory walked out alive, after destroying everyone who tried to bury her forever.